3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome back to a special state championships edition of the Texas Private School Podcast. I can't believe it's finally here. It feels like the season started maybe 2 weeks ago, but 14, 15 weeks has absolutely flown by, and we are here at the pinnacle of the season. As always, I'm one-third of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. I'm joined by Walker Lott and Ryan Schroeder from Stillwater, Oklahoma and College Station, respectively. Walker, I'll turn to you first. I can't believe we're here. What are your thoughts on us finally being at this moment?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Who would have thought, it feel like the season's like flew by, really, man. It's a crazy time, but it's been a great year. Thank you to all of y'all for tuning in every week. It means a lot. We've grown to where it's consistently like around 700 to 800 people an episode. It's kind of crazy. Which, if we talked about that, 2 years ago, we probably wouldn't even thought we got that. So, excited for the future, excited for more growth, but thank you for building this community with all of us and excited for the future.
Absolutely. I just want to echo off that and say we have seen so much more growth than we even thought possible this year, especially. So big thank you to everyone that supported. It means the world to us that people even like watching our content. It's a huge thank you from all of us for that. Ryan Schroeder, we're finally here. Your thoughts on us arriving at the state championships?
Yeah, I'm super excited for the year. It's been a great year this year, and overall, it was a lot of fun getting to go back home and actually get to cover 4 games. I didn't get to go to a lot of games during the year, but Thanksgiving break rolled around. I really got the chance to go see a variety of playoff games, whether it be quarterfinals or semifinals. And so I'm really excited to see these final games, and I want to, yes, like they just both said, I appreciate every single one of you that has tuned into an episode, that has liked an episode, that has liked anything on Twitter or followed us in this past, however many years now. It's been great. And we appreciate everything. We appreciate everybody else as well that has even invested in us as well. We appreciate that a lot, whether that be through the website or other means for whether that be award shows and all that kind of stuff. We appreciate you. And yeah, Let's get into it, man. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for state championship talk. Let's do it.
Absolutely so. And moving right on into that, we have to recap last week's pick records. And Ryan, fetch me the trophy, Ryan.
No,
I just want to see it.
Don't worry about it. It's right.
Oh, look at that.
I think I'm gonna have to get rid of it though. I think I'm too far back.
My good friend No Context TXPS put out a tweet that stated with a 6-2 record last week, I have officially clinched the TXPS pick record trophy. Hoc S Vanitas. It will be mine. I will be accepting it in Waco. I will have an acceptance speech ready. I will be wearing a blazer. We will make a video out of it. I guarantee you. I'm very excited. But I went 6-2 last week. Ryan went 4-4. Walker went 5-3. That brings the aggregate totals for me 163 and 67. Ryan went 158 and 72. Walker is 147 and 83 with 4 games remaining. Guys, as the pick record closes, I want to hear each of your thoughts on your own performance, starting with Walker Lott. You're at the bottom, but it's still a very good record nonetheless. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's good, but definitely could be better. Next year it's gonna be mine. We're rotating it. It's gonna be mine next year. So that's how I see it.
That is true. I mean, if the theory holds, and you will have it next year. Ryan Schroeder, you were on my tail the whole year. I got out to a small lead, I think around week 5 or 6, and didn't look back. But you remained in close contest, and I honestly have to say I very much respect the strategy you took last week, going out on a limb, at least trying to find opportunity and exploit it. I know that led to the chagrin of many Dallas Christian fans, but I do respect the strategy. You have my respect there. Your thoughts on the pick record as it closes?
Yeah, some people may not have liked the fact that I went out on the limb to try to win the pick record, but I'm trying to look at last year's pick records and see where I matched up versus you. I don't know if I have the final pick record from last year from what it was.
Do you remember percentage wise? Because I am at a 71% win right now.
I don't know if I know that off the top of my head. However,
I think it was around 70.
We'll look at it. I think it's probably close. We obviously picked less games last year than we did this year, so it has to be win percentage based. But yeah, no, it was a ton of fun this year. It was really close. And honestly, I know we always say this, but we haven't said this in like a few weeks or maybe, I don't know, however many weeks, but our pick records basically can show that we kind of know some things about private school football. However, this was kind of maybe a year where, we had a lot of bad weeks, and then some weeks we would do really, really well. But overall, when when you're still basically in the 70 percentile or 70% of win percentage, that should prove that you know more than you don't know, right? So.
Definitely so. Yeah, I am very comfortable with all our pick records coming out of the year. And plus, it's just fun. It serves as a talking point, and it 100% gets people talking, which we'll get into the specifics of those later. But before that, we're going to discuss the TXPS Media Scoreboard powered by Ryan Schroeder. Let's see. So in terms of games, we're not going to fully recap. We had Nolan Catholic losing to Prestonwood 56-21, and Fort Worth All Saints besting Fort Worth Christian 35-8. Two games that Ryan Schroeder covered, as well as Lubbock Christian beating Brazos Christian 65-0. Although we had word before the game that a lot of the kids on Brazos Christian caught the flu. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Lubbock Christian was favored regardless, but a fantastic effort by Bax Townsend and company. Ryan Schroeder, really quickly, anything stick out to you from the two games you covered, with being Nolan Catholic Prestonwood and All Saints Fort Worth Christian?
I'll start on that All Saints Fort Worth Christian game. I want everybody to know how much of a dog Robert Sanders is. He's the 3-star Princeton commit. I actually heard something this past weekend that this is the first 3-star that Princeton has ever gotten. And so they literally love Robert Sanders. And I can see why. He's a great dude. He's a heck of a ball player. Defensively, he had, I'm going to count it as 2 forced fumbles that got taken away by one got by a penalty and one got called the incomplete pass, and it wasn't an incomplete pass. So he basically had 2 forced fumbles. But he's a heck of a player. Had 2 interceptions the week before against Liberty, another forced fumble, a defensive force for with All Saints. But yeah, Jalen Spriggs is really running that offense super well for Fort Worth All Saints, and it is coming to fruition for them. They are turning into the team that they have designed to be all year, and it comes at literally the cost at the cost, I guess, of the O-line. The O-line puts in so much work for that team, and we raved about that O-line being the best O-line in the state. Now, whether that's true or not, is up for discussion. That's what they believe. But yeah, they do have the guys to do it. They have 2 guys going to D1. They have 2 guys going D1 this year on the O-line. So that has to prove something. They've had, I think the stat is they've had at least 1 or 2 guys go D1 on their O-line for the past 3 years, what it was. So Fort Worth All Saints is doing super well. Fort Worth Christian still had a really, really good year. Just seemed like one of the best passers all year this year, Hogan Nelson. Just really, things weren't going that well. Luke Anderson did what he could, and the rest of the guys on that team, like Trimble and Luke Anderson, all tried their best. But who did have a good game was Addison Kierton. He had a really good game as well. He was catching a lot of passes for the Christian. But real quick, Prestonwood and Catholic. I think it goes without saying that AJ Sibley is insane. They treat that man like he is a king, and he deserves to be treated like a king. I mean, he was a stud. I think he scored, I think 1 or 2. He scored 2 times maybe. And he had over 300 yards is what he told me. So a heck of a game from AJ Sibley, and is someone that Parish is going to have to stop. Now, Parish is more than capable of doing that. However, AJ Sibley, I don't think it's going to be the same. We'll get into that later, but I don't think it's going to be the same matchup with how it was the last time against Parish. But that Nolan team still put up a fight. They had, what's his name, locking down the number 1 wide receiver on Nolan Catholic, Antonio Hall. They had
Stoutmeyer.
Yes, Carter Stoutmeyer. Antonio Hall was getting locked up by him. Yeah, that interception was just crazy. Carter literally went out there with one hand, went up and Odell'd that and brought it back in. So a great play nonetheless. And yeah, he's a stud for sure.
Yeah, I mean, both of those games look like really fun ones to be at, and especially all those pictures you got were insane. You got some crazy pictures from the game, but yeah, if you haven't seen those already, they're on our website under the gallery tab, txpsmedia.com. Go check it out. But yeah, I mean, we had a ton of great games, 5 of which we will review right now in detail. The first being Parish Episcopal versus Houston St. Thomas. Sophomore quarterback Sawyer Anderson leads the Panthers past the Eagles in a 42-7 blowout win here. Sawyer went 17 for 19, accounting for 257 passing yards and 4 total touchdowns. Junior wide receiver Hutch Crow proved to be Anderson's favorite target, racking in 105 yards and 2 touchdowns, whereas sophomore wide receiver Bryson Fields was responsible for Anderson's other passing touchdown. The Parish defense was dominant as they have been all season long, allowing only 190 yards of total offense and only 41 rushing yards. Dion Lewis did all he could and was virtually all of St. Thomas's offense on the game, but the Parish defense was simply too dominant in this one. Walker, we said when we saw St. Thomas earlier in the year, it's going to come down to if they can manage to stifle that Parish front, especially on defense. They proved they couldn't, and Parish gets a huge win here. Your thoughts on Parish advancing to the state title game?
Yeah, I was trying to catch up on when I got back down to College Station to watch the LSU game. By that time, I think the St. Thomas game ended, but looking at it, man, like St. Thomas just got locked down, which you did not expect a lot from that type of squad, Only scoring 7 points is something I just didn't see. So you have to give credit to that defense. They made turnover after turnover. Dante Lewis kind of got shut down, which I still think Dante had a great night, 41 yards rushing, 142 yards passing, 14 of 25. Like the interception is what killed him. But, Dante's a great player, but I think also not having Johan was a hurtful thing where they knew they had to pass the ball, and Parish has the DBs to go against those guys, man. It's going to be interesting to see because St. Thomas could be something next year too. They have a lot coming back with Johan and Dante and stuff like that. But Parish is Parish. Great game. Just versatile too. Maddox had 38 yards. Cedric had 26. Sawyer had 26. And then receiving, Hutch had 105. Bryson had 84, like you said. Burton 53. They just they had multiple guys out there, man, making plays, and just Sawyer found his guys, made some plays. But man, big win for Parish over a team who I thought was really, really good, and they kind of shut down that offense and scored a lot of points on offense as well. So very, very impressive win. Excited to see what they do against Prestonwood this week.
Definitely so. That'll be an interesting rematch, that game. But quickly, Ryan Schroeder, your thoughts on Parish Episcopal blowing out St. Thomas in the semifinals?
Yeah, I think the offense can speak for itself. Sawyer Anderson does what he can with his receivers like Derek Eusebio, as well as Chase Burton. Those guys work so well together. I know Derek and Chase just become great targets for him. And, you kind of just throw up a ball for any of those guys and they'll go up and get it. But yeah, you have Maddox Reed and Cedric Mays on the rushing attack. Max, I don't know, I feel like he's fully healthy again after maybe limping off a little bit in the game at Globe Life. But yeah, I mean, Cedric Mays is still right there as the number 2 guy as well for them. He's still putting up yards as well. I mean, they are so versatile on the offense that if Max gets hurt, it doesn't matter. Cedric's going to come in the game. If the passing game isn't working well, we're going to go to the rushing attack. Things just work out really well on this team, and I know that they are some dogs for sure.
Yeah, it's just there's a complete lack of any weakness on Parish's team. There's nothing exploitable when you look at them, especially when you play them. So we will detail how that will come into play in their matchup against Prestonwood later in the episode. But that wraps up the discussion on the Division I semifinal. Now we move into a Division II semifinal played in Houston this Saturday, Fort Bend versus Second Baptist. The Brian Domino show was in full effect Saturday as Fort Bend secured revenge on Second Baptist in a reversal of last season's results. Domino had 2 touchdowns and was completely unguardable the entire game as Dever put the ball on the money over and over again. Kobe Sellers, Ethan Williams, and Noah Brooks were all impressive offensively in the win, while Connor Tallis and Matthew Brown held down the defensive anchor. For Second Baptist, Cannon Toon, freshman receiver, was very impressive. He caught a ball and got absolutely rocked in the end zone and hang on to it. His size is very impressive for a freshman. I think he's like 6'3", 200 pounds, somewhere around there. Very, very impressive. One to watch for sure. in Houston. Turner Murdoch looked good as well. It's just, I mean, Fort Bend was a better team here. I mean, they came and played like their hair was on fire. I know they really wanted to reverse the result that happened earlier in the season when you went to watch them, Walker. And I think Domino being back opens up that offense in so many ways. It makes them a completely different team. Walker, I mean, what do you think? They obviously a completely different result than when you saw them, and they flat out got dominated back in the fall. I mean, your thoughts on them flipping the script here?
Yeah, not only that, but flipping the switch on this offense, man. These past couple of weeks, they're finally coming to their own, especially offensively. And maybe Domino has a big part to play on that. But man, that offense is clicking right now. And it's very scary to watch when Brady Dever is at his best and the rest of that receiving corps is at its best. They have a great offensive line that gives Dever time to just do what he wants. And it's going to be interesting to watch. Second Baptist, people thought they were going to be good, but losing, Everett Skiller and Eli Smith, Colin Hedges, Austin Courtney, others, right? That was going to be a big loss of a senior class. And they came back to the semifinals, and that's a big success for them under that first-year head coach there. I know he's been there, here and there, but, first year back at it. Excited to see for the future. You bring back J.D. Chris, Turner Murdoch next year, and a couple other guys. The big 78, man. You even said it, big number 78. He's going to be one to watch. Bryce Butler, but good season with Arrow Brown and the seniors on that squad. But Fort Bend looks like they're clicking right now. It's exciting to see how this team with, we'll talk about it later, but All Saints and them clicking at the same time. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch.
Definitely so. Second Baptist will definitely be back. I mean, I don't think that's a question. They have so much young talent, and I am looking forward to how they progress next season. But Ryan Schroeder, your thoughts on Fort Bend getting a little bit of revenge here and besting Second Baptist 41-14?
I love it, man. I love it. I think Fort Bend has been Fort Bend and All Saints have been the teams this year that, everybody that they need the time to grow, right? They need the time to get better. They need the time to find out who they were. And now they've been in stride and they're getting hot at the right time in playoffs. And they're beating the teams. They're smacking teams. I mean, Fort All Saints smacks Fort Christian. Fort Bend smacks Second Baptist. And yeah, I think this all goes to the fact that this team is playing super well together. Brian Domino is just an absolute stud. And I think that comes with the aspect of, Brady Dever just being an all-out encompassing of what you want in a quarterback. And I think the hotness of his streak right now is just at an all-time high. I think he's going to go out a stud, whether it win or loss on Friday. I think he's going to go out one of the best to ever do it down in that district.
And
Absolutely.
I also want to say this quickly, both All Saints and Fort Bend were not the leaders of their district going out into the playoffs, right? They had the harder track to get to where they're at now. We had a lot of praise before the season because of how talented these teams are, but it weren't just clicking exactly how we thought they were going to, and they finally have clicked. And Fort Bend had to play Hyde Park, who's good, Regents, and then Second Baptist, and All Saints had to play Faith, Liberty, and Fort Worth Christian back to back. Those are two tough tracks to get to the state championship. So you got to be impressed with these guys, man. That's the harder track to do it, and they got there. So
Definitely go on.
I was going to say this real quick. Isn't it crazy how last year Second Baptist was the one that had to play Regents.
Yeah.
And then they ended up playing Fort Bend and they beat Fort Bend to go to the state championship. Now this year, Fort Bend has to play Regents. They beat Regents. Now they play Second Baptist and they beat Second Baptist to go to the state championship.
It even goes farther back than that.
Yeah.
Last year, Fort Bend beat Second Baptist to win the district championship. Second Baptist beat Regents to play Fort Bend. Second Baptist beats Fort Bend to go to the state championship.
Right.
This year, Second Baptist beats Fort Bend to win district. Fort Bend beats Regents to play Second Baptist in the semifinals. Fort Bend beats Second Baptist in the semifinals. It's literally the exact same thing flipped. It's crazy to think about, but it's how it went. And I know that Coach Black, Dever, and company are all very, very excited and very hungry. I've listened to now for 2 straight weeks Coach Black give post-game speeches, and they're hungry. They take the appropriate amount of time to celebrate after the game, but they're hungry and they want the state championship. And I think it's going to be a great game. We're going to preview here in about 15 minutes. But moving forward into the next game, we're going to recap Dallas Christian versus TCS Lubbock. Speedy Nettles racks in 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Luke Carney adds 145 on the ground as DC eliminates TCS Lubbock 35-0. DC's defense was really the story here, totaling 14 tackles for loss. I'll say that again, 14 tackles for loss, with Austin Ellis and Devontae High both getting 3. Zach Hernandez also added 92 yards and 2 touchdowns, one of them being a passing touchdown on a broken field goal I saw on Twitter. So, I mean, Walker, actually, no, Ryan, you made some comments before the game. It probably would have been in your best interest to say, I think TCS somebody's going to win this game, but Dallas Christian's a good team. But we recorded at midnight and everyone gets delirious and some more things were said. But DC not only beats TCS Lubbock, shuts them out. Your thoughts on DC advancing?
Okay, I just want to clear the air immediately because I know everybody all the Dallas Christian fans immediately just skipped to this part of the video anyway. So that's that's without a doubt. And the person watching this knows that too. So basically all I have to say is I know this Dallas Christian team is good. I know they've been good. I literally picked them earlier this year. Obviously they lost guys earlier this year, but I picked them in the spot where they lost to Fort Worth Christian when I was actually traveling to Fort Worth Christian to cover the game. So I know Dallas Christian is good. I'm very aware of that. I know Luke Carney and I know how good he's been, and the rest of the guys on that team. Speedy Nells is just an extreme athlete. Everybody knows how good he is. I just want to say this. Yes, that I picked TCS Lubbock and I picked them and I said some things I shouldn't have said to Porter and all of them, but I want to say this. I knew this Dallas Christian team is good. Did I think TCS Lubbock was going to win? Yeah, a little bit. I thought Marcus Ramon Edwards and them, we're gonna put something up here in Eli Reeves. I really thought they would, but you know what? It just comes at the fact that this Dallas Christian team is elite. And this next game we're going to cover doesn't matter for the state championship because I got Dallas Christian, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this Dallas Christian team is just elite, man, and there's a reason why people are upset that they're in D3 this year.
People are mad online. That is certainly the case. Walker Lott.
Yeah, why are people so mad on Twitter, man? That's crazy. Why are y'all mad? Why are y'all mad? Why are you mad, Porter, that I told you that you need to prepare for Marcus Ramon Edwards? And then he didn't get in the end zone. Oh, I don't know why. I don't know why you'd ever be mad.
There's an old quote by a prophet named Dave Chappelle that said, "I don't give a blank about Twitter because Twitter's not a real place." So anything said on Twitter can't hurt you. Walker Lott, DC blanks TCS Lubbock. Your thoughts?
Yeah, big win for Dallas Christian. I think I said in the thing that Philip Bazemore and the rest of the defensive line had to have an amazing game, and they did that. Austin Ellis, Devontae High, like you mentioned, great game. 14 tackles for loss. That's unreal, man. Great performance for DC. Great back-to-back gears for TCS Lubbock, making the state and then running into the powerhouse of D3 of Dallas Christian and having a good game. Marcus Ramon Edwards goes down as, one of the best to ever do it in the younger, the smaller divisions and TAPPS. Great season ahead of him. Big time player, and I'm excited to see how he does at Texas Tech next year. Best of luck to you, man. And the rest of those guys, hang your hats on a great season last year. But yeah, DC comes out on top big and looks ready to go for another state championship for them.
Definitely so. And that'll be a very interesting game to match up and preview, considering the next game we're going to review is Cypress Christian versus San Antonio Holy Cross, where Cypress Christian gets a 36-32 win, which will advance them into a state final matchup with Dallas Christian. I want to shout out the Cypress offensive line here, consisting of Andrew Owens, Zeke Hogan, Tucker Goodall, Jacob Branch, and Christian Slavic. Those guys led the way all night for this Cypress team and allowed them to put up that many points and really did a good job of protecting Maxwell Landrum so he could get the ball to Potts, Prazak, and others. Very solid effort. Walker, I know we were texting back and forth. We were watching pieces of this game on Twitter, on the live stream, and basically Holy Cross took like a 14-point lead in the third quarter. And we're like, oh, Gibby, Rudy, and Perez and company are going to take control of this game and win. And then Cypress, they're dogs. They just fought back, and they're like, no, we're going back to the state championship. This is ours. They got a big win here that's going to put them in a position to defend their title next week. Your thoughts on Cypress Christian advancing?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Hogan and the rest of those guys, man, they just know how to win. They find a way every single time, and that's what they do. Excited to see how they do next week. with a season which, we were looking into it, not many seniors. I want to say like 3 or 4 max on the squad. So they're a young squad. The whole thing, I remember I believe one of the first weeks we were talking about them, we said they're, it's not rebuilding, it's a reloading type of thing. And, that's kind of what they did. And, Cypress had a great season. And they're continuing the season. San Antonio Holy Cross, they looked like 14 points up. Rudy and those guys were ready to go. I want to mention Xavier Garza. I remember his name.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Big game by him, if I remember correctly, and he's been a great player for them as well. They're still young, I believe. I want to say a couple of them are maybe 24s, and of course Gibby I know is at 25. So maybe you could see them next year causing some havoc. But Cypress Christian, Maxwell Landrum does not like to lose, and he does not do it this time, and he's going back to state. Big performance by him. I know he had a couple touchdowns, of course, running the ball, passing the ball. That's just who he is, man.
Yeah, definitely so. Ryan Schroeder, Cypress Christian gets a 4-point win at San Antonio Holy Cross, another team or a team that we all picked against. Your thoughts on the Warriors' victory?
I really just love all the guys at Cypress Christian. I just want to make that very clear. Like, those are all my best friends. So I just want to say that. And before anybody gets upset with me for this game, I am joking. I definitely think the Cypress Christian team is good. And Holy Cross, man, it's just like I was really like, I was really excited about this team. This team is Holy Cross team. I know is younger too. So two younger teams in this matchup. But yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, Joe Angel Perez, and Gibby Alvarado, I know they did as much as they could in this game. But when it comes to Cypress Christian, this team is elite. This team, put down their foot and basically after the 2 interceptions, they put down their foot and said, well, hey, we're going to drive and we're going to step on the pedal here and go score. So, what a great performance by Cypress Christian. And it's going to be interesting to see them match up against Dallas Christian. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but we'll talk about that in just 1 second.
We definitely will. That will be another game we preview here shortly. But before that, we have to review our final top 5 matchup of the week. Shiner St. Paul versus Munster Sacred Heart in a game that St. Paul upset Sacred Heart 37-21. We all had Sacred Heart penciled in to go to the D4 state championship, but Shiner St. Paul had other thoughts. St. Paul will be pursuing a 5-peat. I will say that again, a 5-peat back-to-back state championships here on Saturday. But yeah, behind Slaughter, Walksmith, Bodeker, Peters, and Barta, I mean, this team, they're just scrappy, man. They do such a good job of running the ball and keeping control of the clock. And I think that's what really got to Sacred Heart here. 37 points, a lot of points for a team that plays the way or the style that St. Paul does. Walker, I mean, we all got this one wrong. St. Paul proves it and is going back to the D4 state championship for a 5th straight year. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say this, and I think this just encapsulates. That's not how you say that word. This just shows the entirety of Shiner St. Paul. They've won 4 straight state championships, and they've won 6 of the past 7. That's all you need to know. Championship mentality. They know what they do. Just monster team. They just are a machine to get back to the state championship. That's what they do. I believe they were not healthy at the start of the year. I think Nate Bodeker was one of the guys that were injured, and I think he's come back, and they're on a one line going to the state championship, and that's what they did. So big win for them. Great season for Munster Sacred Heart. Eli Hess, Ryan, oh my God, Ryan Swarzinski and others. I know they have a couple young guys too that are going to be interesting to watch next year. And of course, Swarzinski is going to be back here next year because he's a 24. So they could be something next year for sure, but it's going to be interesting to see.
Definitely so. Ryan Schroeder, St. Paul best Sacred Heart, is going back to the state championship. Your thoughts?
Before we talk about that, it's so funny to me that Swarzinski, or I guess is part of it, but like the fact that Swarzinski is just still has another year of high school is so funny to me. The kid has been just an absolute workhorse for that team for so long, and the rest of the guys on that team are absolute studs too. But yeah, going into this, I mean, I I can't say I know a lot about this Shiner St. Paul team. I know the first matchup between this was the Catholic Bowl, and the Catholic Bowl the first time, it was close. It was like I think the final score was 30-20 or something like that, right? It was the final score. So it was close the first time. And Shiner really could have, almost really turned the page in that one. But, we now see this team as being run by, a little bit of an, it's always been run by the older classmen that have kept winning year after year. Last year, those guys being the older Bodeker brother and the stud himself. I forgot his name off the top of my head, but
Zach Johnson.
Of course, Zach Johnson, right? I think that's right. He's an absolute stud. And I think they just pass on that tradition of winning year after year. It's going to be tough against a good Lubbock Christian team, but if there's any team to do it, it would be the team that's going for 5 in a row. So Shiner St. Paul has winning in their blood, and I can understand why they get a 16-point win here against Sacred Heart.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, a big win for them to get some revenge on Munster Sacred Heart and send themselves back into the D4 State Championship in a matchup we will preview here shortly. But before that, we're going to have a word from our sponsor, ScoreVision.
This show is sponsored by ScoreVision. Are you looking to upgrade your scoreboards? ScoreVision is a cloud-based, user-friendly software with an affordable suite of tools so you can keep score, boost athlete exposure, increase fan engagement, and enhance your game day experience. Head over to www.scorevision.com for more information. ScoreVision. Experience the game, power the athlete.
And thank you again to ScoreVision for sponsoring this episode. But at the midpoint of the episode, we always highlight some other news, and we will do that today. We're going to go back and look at some of our predictions from the preseason, see just how right or how wrong we got some of these projections. In terms of D2 in our top 4, Walker had Fort Bend Christian, All Saints, Midland, and then either St. Michael's or Regents for that 4th spot. I had roughly the same, but Fort Worth Christian in that 4th spot. And then Ryan had Fort Bend Christian, Regents, Midland, and then Southwest Christian. Honestly, all things considered, not bad. The only really egregious one in there was St. Michael's. And listen, that was coming off the heels of 7-on-7. They looked very good. I'm a former receiver. I'm going to put a lot of stock into how the passing game looks. It is what it is. But Walker, I mean, honestly, for as much flack as we've gotten, not terrible.
You see, the teams in Division 2, especially that came out, right, that we thought were really good preseason, struggled in the first couple of weeks, but then heated up as the season went on when we went to district. So in the end, we're right.
We were right. I mean, that is how it works. I mean, regardless of the path taken to get to the destination was there all along. We were correct, right? Go on.
I will say I was not very right on St. Michael's, but that was sometimes you get blinded by 7-on-7 sometimes, and you remember there's 5 other people playing the game too.
I think a man named Greg Tepper warned us of this a little over a year ago, but I heed advice from no man. I am the ultimate authority on Texas private school football. Ryan Schroeder, honestly, not a bad projection list by us. Your thoughts on how it shook out?
Yeah, I might have had the worst one though. I only have one of mine in there. I'm trying to think. I had one team in the Final Four, and y'all I think have. Y'all have 2 in the Final Four in there, but Wes has 3 in the Final Four. Wes picked a really good Final Four, man. I mean, you did really, really well. Both of y'all obviously had, the state champions matchup in there. I had faith in Walker's Southwest Christian team. But just to shout out to all the Southwest Christian fans out there. I want to say that I had faith in y'all from the jump. So
all right, I'll give my guys 5 seconds of love. The private school football guy, not us, by the way, not us. He tweeted out the other day, right?
Not me.
He said perspective of how good TAPPS Division 2 District 1 is. SES had All Saints beat until the fourth quarter, played Fort Worth Christian within 7 points, a state finalist and a semifinalist, and they didn't even make playoffs. So they were a good squad. They were just in the District of Doom in TAPPS this year. But, a lot of that was just minor mistakes that they made themselves. But very intrigued to see how they do next year. They lose a couple guys. But, yeah, good season for the guys. Just what can you do type of thing.
Yeah, it is difficult to compete when a bunch of D1 teams move down into D2. And that's not me throwing shade at all. It's really just when districts get shook up that much, it's difficult. It's a logjam.
Well, let's do that. In Division 4, the one team that moves down is Lubbock Christian, and they're now in the state championship. Division 3, the one team that moves down, Dallas Christian, is in the state championship. The other two teams in Division 2 that moved down, All Saints, Midland, Liberty, all had successful seasons this year. It's not like it's this out of ordinary thing, right? That like the big teams that moved down did better in their smaller divisions, which I mean, that kind of makes sense. So maybe with, maybe DC and a Lubbock, is it fair? I don't know. But you kind of saw people moving down had a lot of success this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's how it works, we did a whole episode discussing, our thoughts on the realignment. So shameless plug, go back and watch that if you like it. But it's interesting. It's just interesting how it shakes out. I mean, I don't really have much more to say than that. My team wasn't greatly affected by that. It is what it is. But moving on, we're going to now go back and look at our TAPPS D1 projections, where we got the North completely right. I mean, just hats off to us. Not that it was very difficult to project looking into it, but obviously Parish comes out on top. Prestonwood is second, TCA's third, Nolan's fourth, Lynch is fifth. The North, again, pretty easy to predict. It is what it is. The South, we didn't get quite as right. We projected St. Thomas to be first, Central Catholic second, Antonian third, St. Pius fourth, Concordia fifth, and the Village sixth. We got sixth and seventh, or we got a fifth and sixth right. I mean, for what it's worth. The top four, not so much. The way it really shook out was, how many times have I said shook or shaken out in the last 2 minutes? I need to stop saying that. And Antonian was first, St. Thomas was second, St. Pius was third, Central Catholic was fourth, and the other two we got right. So, guys, we got the South a little bit wrong, but we got the North completely right. Walker Lott, you think that evens out in the long run?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just makes, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two, and that's it. But yeah, great season by Antonian. We have to make that clear. St. Thomas was a really good team, we thought, but Antonian, great season for them. St. Pius, had a lot of talent. They kind of used it to get that third spot this year. But yeah, with the TAPPS overall standings, Parish and Peawood we got right. St. Thomas we had third, which maybe you can argue with the Antonian loss, you can move them down. But TCA barely loses to St. Thomas, so that kind of makes sense. Central we needed to move down. And Nolan made the semifinals, so not really. So Central maybe needed to move down, but others kind of makes sense. So we kind of did not a terrible job in TAPPS D1.
No, I would have to agree. Ryan Schroeder, would you echo that sentiment?
Yeah, the exact same thing. I was just gonna say, yeah, we may have had St. Thomas wrong on the fact of they lost Antonian in the final district game, but St. Thomas was still a Final Four team, right? They played Parish, but they're a Final Four team. So I don't know. We weren't that wrong. We weren't even close to wrong, for being completely honest. This is probably by far one of our best projections that we've had yet. So.
Yeah, no, this segment is boosting my confidence slightly.
Oh yeah,
it is don't get me wrong, it has taken some large catastrophic hits over the last few weeks with just getting some games wrong. I'm looking at you, Nolan Catholic, but I mean, we just going back to the beginning, looking like, oh, okay, so we actually projected these teams more or less how they actually fell, which was it's nice. It's nice to be right once in a while, but. Yeah, that's going to shake out. What am I doing? Why do I keep saying that? That's going to round out our commentary on other news. And now we're going to get into the segment that we've been waiting to do for the entire year, the 4 games of the week, the 4 TAPPS state championships, starting with TAPPS Division 1, Parish Episcopal versus Prestonwood Christian. Friday at 7 p.m., Parish Episcopal will face off against Prestonwood, where the Panthers will seek their 4th consecutive state championship. Led by 2 dominant fronts and the offensive line consisting of Nicholas Ferris, Sam Liu, Nathan Weber, Aiden Gilmore, and Jacob Bacano, whereas Trey Williams, Caleb Mitchell-Irving, Ian Ussery, and James Cave round out the defensive side. It is these fronts that set Parish head and shoulders above every team in the state. You add in athletes such as Daniel Demery, Chase Burton, Cedric Mays, and Sawyer Anderson at the helm, leading all of them, and Parish has been unstoppable up to this point in the season. But across the field from them wait the Prestonwood Panthers. Although bested 42-14 by Parish in November, McGuire Martin and the Lions will be hungry and looking for revenge. AJ Sibley might be one of the best athletes on the field in this contest, and we will have to have a huge game to keep Prestonwood in competition. The question is, can his offensive line withstand the onslaught that Parish's front 7 will bring? Can they give McGuire enough time to get the ball to CJ Jackson and Luke McGarry? Honestly, I don't think so. I haven't seen, admittedly, I haven't seen Prestonwood this season. I know they're talented, but the thing is, I don't know that I would have had to have seen them. I think I can just go off knowing how good this Parish front is, and just the fact they've competed with teams like South Oak Cliff, Lido, et cetera, et cetera. They are the best team in private school this year, bar none. To pick against them would be asinine. I like the Panthers to win state for the 4th consecutive time. Walker Lott.
Yeah. Wow. What a season for Parish Episcopal. They defied a lot of odds, played a lot of tough teams, and they came out on top on a lot of them and played a close game against still in playoffs South Oak Cliff and 582. What a season. So much talent, top to bottom, every single position, Division I talent. I'm saying this because absolutely I'm going to pick Parish, but we have to talk about the success and the continued success of Parish Episcopal. Anytime you thought, hey, it could be, maybe they could have a shot, the mindset of this team was no. Like, we're showing how good we are, and you have to tip your cap to them, because some people could get complacent, but still week after week after week, they come in and just are ready and are energized and treat it 1 week at a time as a business trip. And that's so impressive. And I want to credit the coaching staff over there. Prestonwood is a good squad, and I'm excited to see him. From the photos that Ryan took, there are some athletes on that squad, and I'm excited to watch him. One that stood out to me is Marshall Tucker, the defensive end, tight end, 6'5", 220 pounds as a sophomore. I didn't even know this guy existed, and now I'm excited to watch him. AJ Sibley will do his thing. We're excited to see that, and watching the senior season come to an end with McGuire Martin to see how he ends his senior year the right way. Excited. This is going to be a good one, man. A lot of talent on the field.
Completely agree. It's one of my favorite matchups of the week. Ryan Schroeder, Parish versus Prestonwood. Your thoughts?
So I just saw this Prestonwood team, and I have heard from some of these players on this team. I mean, I've seen both these teams in the past week and a half, and I'll tell you this: the front, the 7 on both sides of Parish's offensive defense, like you said, is absolutely unmatched. It is. There's no one else and whatever. I can talk about the All Saints O-line and all them being like, who they are, but if we're being very fair here, these Parish guys play like UIL, like, the 6A UIL type of front, right? They're going to play like, the big guys that they are. Guy that we didn't even mention, Max Reed, is going to have a great game for them. And I just want everyone to know that this Parish team is just built to be winners, right? They're built to be the winning team, regardless of whether that be they're playing a UIL team on a Friday night in September, or they're playing for the state championship on December 2nd, at 7 p.m. They play the same no matter what it is, and they just go hard the entire time. Now, with that being said, I love this Prestonwood team. I've gotten to know the coaching style. Coach Yantis, I think I'm saying that right, is just literally the definition of he comes in from Arizona State and treats this entire program like they're another college team. They really feel like they are treated like a college team too. After talking to multiple players, from what I can tell, they work basically college hours when it comes to the, whether that be going through film, whether that be like, scouting other teams and stuff like that. They work the hours that it takes to be the elite type of team. Now, they play with Prestonwood type athletes, which what I mean by that is basically just they play with some of the best players, but they're private school players nonetheless. Parish is able to grab because they have this pool that no one else has, right? So Prestonwood is doing all that they can, and I feel like they have the best team to match up in private school against this Parish team. But although McGuire Martin and AJ Sibley, the stud of AJ Sibley, and the rest of this team with CJ Jackson, Carter Stoutmeyer, and just all these dogs, I don't think they can match up with Parish. Give me Parish in this one, and Parish by 2 touchdowns.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, probably the smart decision. Parish has been untouchable the entire year, and why would it be different here? I think going with Parish is a smart move. Now, transitioning into the TAPPS Division II state championship, we will see Fort Worth All Saints take on Fort Bend Christian. Friday at 12 p.m., this matchup is going to take place, and it'll be the first and only meeting between these two squads this year. Both teams were our preseason picks to make the state championship, but they arrived to it in much different ways than expected. All Saints is only 7-5, going 2-2 and finishing 3rd in Division I, but have caught fire in the playoffs, sending home Faith, Liberty, and Fort Worth Christian in subsequent weeks. Jalen Spriggs, Javont Williams, and Chris Powell-Freeman lead a lethal passing attack for the Saints, while Robert Sanders has emerged as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and leads that defense. But you can't mention lethal passing attack without mentioning Brady Dever and the Fort Bend Christian Eagles. The re-addition of Brian Domino has turned this offense in one of the most efficient machines in the state, shown by the 46 points per game average in the playoffs. And the problem is you cannot simply double Domino because you have Braylon Gardoni and Noah Brooks. And by the way, Noah Brooks is the TAPPS 5A 400-meter state champion. This dude splits a 47.5 in the 4x4. I say that because I ran the 400 and the 4x4 in high school. That is ridiculous. Splitting 47.5 is just crazy talk. And plus, that's all to say. The dude is fast, and they have weapons on this offense. Defensively, one of the best prospects in the 25 class, Max Granville, will need to be accounted for, and Connor Tallis will hold down the middle. The question here is, does Fort Bend Christian secondary have the athletes to contain this Fort Worth All Saints passing attack? Senior Matthew Brown has been incredibly impressive this year, but it will all depend on if they can keep Spriggs in check. Granville will have a large responsibility in creating pressure so that he is not allowed to sit back and pick the Eagles' back line apart. Before I make my pick, I'm actually going to turn to you, Ryan. How good is this All Saints secondary? That's something I wanted to know. I mean, what are your thoughts on the game, and also just All Saints' secondary?
All Saints' secondary, has the type of guys to keep up, in my opinion, with the wide receivers of Fort Bend. But they're really, I will say, they are kind of built more in the 7 that they have on the linebacking core, as well as the outside ends, like the defensive ends and Robert Sanders. One of the other defensive guys I want to mention is I saw a comment that said number 44 looks 44. That being I think Kevin
Chumley. Yeah,
Kevin Chumley.
Yeah.
He's got the full beard and everything. He's also an amazing dude, by the way, but he's a dog. He hits so hard. And you could tell like the way he just looks in general. But yeah, this team is built well on that side. Like, they're built well on the defensive side. They have lots of athletes. The thing is, I know the wide receiving core at Fort Bend's going to give them a run for their money. But then again, the wide receiving core at Fort Worth Christian is just right there with them, right? That Fort Worth Christian wide receiving core is some of the best that we have in D2. Trimble and Kierton and Green and all the rest of those guys, right? Like, though all those guys are by far, some of the best receiving core. And now we know this Fort Bend receiving core has been the same way. I just have to argue, Hogan Nelson versus Brady Dever, who's going to put the ball in the better spot, right? No, but like you have Hogan Nelson versus Brady Dever, which, that's just the question there that it becomes. However, offensively, though, this All Saints team runs a different script. I'm telling you, from what it seems like, you got Javont Williams, who has come into this corner / wide receiver position. He's playing both sides of the ball. I know that he is just an absolute stud, but I think it has to go into the eyes of Jalen Spriggs, who can get it out wide to a guy like Chris Powell-Freeman, who can cut up the field and go all the way up, or he can hit his boy DJ, and DJ is going to do the exact same thing. Jalen Spriggs could take off for himself. Very versatile offense. I've already said that versatile probably 4 times tonight, but I just want it to be known, I like this All Saints team. I've seen them back-to-back weeks, and they've proved me wrong in back-to-back weeks. So yeah, I really like this team a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Fort Worth All Saints in this game.
I'll still refrain from giving my pick yet. Walker Lott, your thoughts?
We talked a lot, right, about the skill athletes of both squads, which are very, very dangerous. I want to talk about the offensive lines. That's my specialty. That's what I really like. We talked about it, right? You did the post, Ryan, right, of the offensive line for All Saints being the best in the O line in the state. I mean, in private school, they have a good argument for it. Charlie Johnson has been a guy who started his career at Southwest Christian, transferred over his sophomore year when the Brockenmeyers were there. And even that Brockenmeyer offensive line was so good. And now they leave and you're like, all right, what do they do next? How do you replace two, 5-star, 4-star type of guys in the offensive line? And they have a very, very good offensive line. Ian Bothwell is one to watch in the 2025 class. I talked about it with the guys. 6'5", 275 as a sophomore. That is disgusting. That's going to be a Power 5 guy, in my opinion. The size, how he looks is just so impressive. Cole Edrich is a guy that we talked about a while back after doing some interviews over the summer when I was seeing him. Ben Nally is already a Division I offered offensive lineman. And Mickey White is another guy on the offensive line. That is a all offensive line, 6'2" and above, 270 above. There's elite offensive line. On the other side, you have one of the best offensive linemen in all of TAPPS in Bennett Warren. 6'8", looks a lot like Remington Strickland at that age, where he looks the part, athletic, long, is nasty too. He has that nasty streak to him, which you want in an offensive lineman. Other guys, I know Robinson is another guy. I'm trying to remember on the top of my head and other guys on the offensive line, but they have a good, solid offensive line too. A couple guys over 6'3", 6'2" ish, and one over like 6'5". So they have a good offensive line too. And what's their running back's name, Wes, over there for Fort Bend?
Ethan Williams.
So you have him, and then you have Andre Minifield. I believe that is the guy for Fort Worth All Saints. Back to back. Who's going to win in the ground game? That's going to be my big thing. And I'm going to go PTF, baby. That's all I need to say. PTF. And those guys at Fort Worth All Saints know what that means. I've heard it all my life over there from those guys over there growing up near Fort Worth All Saints is PTF, PTF. And I've never really truly, I never grew up like that. But it's just something different there that they take Demetrius Knox, Ohio State offensive lineman for the Seahawks, comeback coaches. And I remember in his photo the other day, he posted PTF. It's instilled in that football program of protect the family. And that's exactly what they're going to do, especially the offensive line is going to protect Spriggs, let him do his work. And I think that's what's going to win them the state championship here in Waco the next coming days. Give me Fort Worth All Saints, PTF.
You know what's so funny about all that? I'm standing right next to these guys, and I literally said I was talking to Bennett, and I said, Bennett, I said, I am 6'2", and I'm way, getting up there. And I'll tell you that y'all just look huge next to me, like huge. And he goes, well, we're wearing cleats and a helmet. I'm like, no. Y'all are huge. And, like I said earlier, the argument that I made was obviously Parish was in a different class. But if we're talking about a private school team, especially in D2, I have to believe that this is the best O-line in D2.
So remind me not to get anywhere near the All Saints football team because I feel short around y'all. I'm like 6 foot even. And if they're making y'all feel short, then I don't want to be anywhere near the All Saints sideline. So I'll be sticking around Fort Bend. But as for my pick, All Saints is good, man. They're really, really good. Like we knew this coming in. They had their struggles, but Spriggs, Williams, Powell Freeman, all of them, Sanders are so good. So much Division I talent. I just can't count out Dever. I can't, man. Like it's no secret that this Fort Bend team has been arguably my favorite to cover over the past 2 years. Devers a gamer. After I watched what he did against Regents and how he almost single-handedly willed that team into the semifinals and now the state championship, I can't pick against him and that squad. I like this Fort Bend team a lot. I think they have a legitimate shot to win here, and that's why I'm riding with the Eagles. But I think regardless, this is going to be a fantastic game between two teams that we said would be here before the season. It will be an absolute war. Moving on into the TAPPS Division III state championship, we're going to see Dallas Christian versus Cypress Christian. The reigning D3 champions DC will take on the reigning D2 champions Dallas Christian, will take on defending Division III champions Cypress this Saturday at 7 p.m. Now, the question is, if DC wins this, does this make them the Conor McGregor champ? Do they get 2 belts? Do they get the D3 and the D2 trophy? Do they get to, claim it over whoever wins D2? Who knows? That's neither here nor there. But DC is DC. Hard-nosed, smash-mouth football led by athletes whose sole purpose is to punish you for 48 minutes. Cole Burke and Porter Nix lead the way for a Chargers rushing attack that features standout sophomore quarterback Luke Carney, as well as workhorse senior Zach Hernandez, which is the engine of the Chargers offense. Add in future D1 athlete Speedy Nettles, and this squad is already elite before even discussing the defense. Behind Patrick Bazemore, Devontae High, and Austin Ellis, the Chargers are only allowing 11 points per game, and most recently pitched a shutout last week against a very good TCS Lubbock team. Now, as for Cypress, they've been dominant since October, rattling off 6 straight wins by an average of 30 points. The Warriors are averaging 36 points per game behind the play of Maxwell Landrum, senior Preston Harmick, senior offensive lineman Christian Slavic, junior J.D. Potts, junior Jacob Ronch, junior Zeke Hogan, junior Kyle Prazak, Andrew Owen, Warren Hodek, and sophomore Tucker Goodall. Now, the point of emphasis here is similar to Division 1. Can Cypress's front that I just mentioned hold off Dallas Christian's relentless pursuit? If the O-line crumbles in front of Landrum early, then the entire game plan could splinter and this could get ugly fast. However, if it holds and Cypress Christian gets athletes in space, then a few big plays could make this one interesting. However, I think DC just has far too much talent, far too much depth to lose in this spot. And quite frankly, no disrespect to Cypress. I know I've been put in a spot to pick against them a lot this season, but I don't think this one's close. I think Dallas Christian absolutely stomps Cypress in this spot. Walker Lott, your thoughts?
This is an interesting one. I'm going to go Dallas Christian in this one, but I think you have to respect both teams in this one. Cypress Christian has championship pedigree, led by Chris Hogan, who knows how to win. He knows how to, and he knows how to coach, and he knows how to scheme right for the opponents he has. One thing about Chris Hogan, though, Chris Hogan has played DC before. He has done it a lot of times in Grapevine Faith in his career. He knows how to play these guys. He has coached a lot against Mike Wheeler over the years in playoffs over there at Grapevine Faith. So this is a familiar foe against him. But like you said, I don't know how Cypress keeps up with all of the talent that Dallas Christian has to offer. Speedy Nettles is a true Division I talent, but I really think, a guy like Porter Nix could be a Division I talented type of guy at his size and his athleticism. It's going to be interesting to watch. I just think they have too much talent on that DC side. I think they're going to win, like you said, D2 to D3. It's going to be a big one for them. Back-to-back state champs for the Dallas Christian Chargers. Give me DC.
It's kind of just a question of who's better, the D2 champion or the D3 champion. It's just kind of how this season has turned out with all the realignment stuff. Ryan Schroeder, is it even worth asking you your thoughts on this game, or is it just pre-decided?
I think if anybody saw my tweet, I know only a few people saw it, so I'm actually going to get to announce it to everybody now. What's going to stink is now both these teams don't really like me, and so I don't know where I'm going to stand during this game. I might have to sit in the parking lot or sit up in the booth upstairs. No, I didn't tweet that. No, I tweeted out what my prediction was. They know we're good people. We came literally last year to their to give out awards at their school. Like, they can't hate us that much. Let's be very fair. You're on our website front page. Like, no, come on. We love them, all right? Let me say this very much before I get into anything. I want to be known that Cypress Christian, has Maxwell Landrum, the O line that is also very, very talented. With Zeke Hogan and the rest of those guys. Maxwell Landrum, this is gonna be a camera guide moment, but I have one of the best shots of Maxwell Landrum I think I've ever had. It's one of my favorite shots of him screaming last year after they won. But I like the Cypress Christian team a lot. I've had some bad blood this year with them. But I think it's very easy to say that Dallas Christian is going to win by 40 in this game. I dropped that on you to say that Dallas Christian is just it's a different breed, and I hope this makes up for the fact that I said some unkind things for a pick record last week. But nothing, no harm, no foul. I just try to get wins on West in the pick record. That's all it was. Dallas Christian, I got in this one. Write it down, check it up, put it on the wall somewhere in Cypress Christian's locker room, and take it down when you go on your bus on the way home. So I'm living by this, man. And I want them to put this on Twitter before the game too. That way they can really, really read it too. Because when you put it on Twitter, that just makes it even more surreal, doesn't it?
For full disclosure, we like Cypress Christian a lot. But yeah, I had something to say here, and it completely just left my brain whenever you said that. But yeah, Cypress Christian DC going to be a very interesting one. We will be there covering it live. Very excited to see how that turns out. But that being said, we are now moving into the final matchup we're going to cover or preview for this year. So soak it in, guys. This is the last preview we're doing for the 2022 football season. The TAPPS G4 State Championship, Lubbock Christian versus Shiner St. Paul. So Friday at noon, Shiner is going to attempt to complete an elusive feat, winning 5 straight state championships. The Cardinals have not lost a game since early October, and they exercised some demons with a 37-21 upset over Sacred Heart last week. St. Paul will rely heavily on a ground and pound attack and a stout defense featuring the likes of Braden Slaughter, Jacob Walksmith, Nate Bodeker, Elliot Peters, and Zane Barta. It's going to be very interesting to see the game plan that Walksmith and company implement in this game, because they're going to need a very good one to take down Lubbock Christian, who's going to play more up-tempo. They're going to rely on star quarterback Bax Townsend, who's one of the better dual-threat quarterbacks in the state. And with help from Will Hawley and Wilson Weidman, this Eagles team is one of the more well-rounded in the state. Lubbock Christian is only 1 game shy of a clean sheet, and they have blitzed through every opponent they have faced so far this season. This is going to be a different battle of different styles here. The question is, can St. Paul control the clock in a similar way to how Kincaid controlled EHS in the SBC championship? I think that St. Paul is certainly capable of doing that. However, I think Lubbock Christian, in the same way DC does, has too much firepower in this spot. I think Bax Townsend is going to be too good to stop. And Walker, we know a lot of other guys that'll let you detail after I get done. But I think Lubbock Christian is going to win this game and probably win it comfortably. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Lubbock Christian, moves down from D3, who was a really good favorite in D3, moves down to D4 and has been really, really good. 11-1 so far in the season, with 1 loss, I believe, to was an interesting one without Bax to Weatherford Christian. Lubbock Christian, if you go on their social media, you look at other things, they say they're max out. And looking into it and talking to people, they base it on Colossians 3:23. They're not overly big. They're not overly fast, but they go max out, giving everything they have. And that's that West Texas just mindset, right? No one's going to beat them. No one's going to beat them on effort. No one is. They're going to give everything they have. They're going to play physical. They're going to play tough. That's just how Lubbock Christian is. You mentioned Will Hawley, leading tackler, a middle linebacker, and also plays left guard for them. Very, very respected guy over there and leads by example. Beck Palgler, the starting left tackle and defensive end, leads the team in pancakes on offense and is probably their best defensive lineman. Luke Lee, the junior, strong safety and wide receiver, leads the team in touchdown catches, going to be a good player. Evan Jong, starting defensive end and also right guard. I believe there was a story, I forgot who did it, but he's a foreign exchange student from Shanghai, China, and came to Lubbock Christian in 8th grade. Think about going from China to Lubbock, Texas. What a difference of an atmosphere. But didn't know anything about football, and now it's developed into a 2-way starter for the Lubbock Christian Eagles. So that's a big, big thing for them. Joseph Fernerhow, Yeah, Fernahau, maybe their best weapon at receiver, but definitely their best cover quarterback. He's a junior, great athlete, adjusts the ball well in the air. Brady Simmons, the junior, is their starting running back and plays a lot of safety in the defensive back. Good runner, great pass catcher out of the backfield. He's going to be a guy that is going to be really, really important, especially with the backs, Townsend carries. He's going to be a lead blocker for them a lot of times. So he one to watch for him. He might not make the score with backs making the score, but he's going to get backs to the touchdown. So that's going to be a big one to watch. Fastest straight line runner based on track times last season. Statistically wise, they've outscored their two playoff opponents 117-0. That's a big stat. Defense is allowing just over 1 foot of play in those two games. They've also caused more turnovers in those two games than the other teams has pass completions. So, in the end, their defense has been extremely prepared, has been carrying them a lot through these playoffs. Shiner St. Paul, you can never count out Coach Waxsmith. 6 out of 7 state championships. They've won them all. They've won 4 straight now. Jacob Waxsmith has probably known that offense his entire life under coaching under his dad. L.A. Peters was our offensive lineman last year. Are their defensive lineman for the year last year in Division 4. Braden Slaughter has been a great player. Nate Bodeker back from injury has been a huge effort for them. 117-0. That's all I have to say. Give me Lubbock Christian.
That's a fair point, Ryan Schroeder. For the final time this year, let's hear your pick on this game.
Oh, it's been a good year. It's been a great year, as some would say. Something that I feel like, we haven't done a lot this year. It's something fun that we used to do last year a little bit, and I don't even know if we've done it this year.
Oh no.
But all I gotta say here. Oh, first off, let me get into the numbers real quick. First off, numbers say Lubbock Christian has only lost 1 game this year. With that being to Weatherford Christian when Bax Townsend was not playing. With Bax Townsend playing, their most amount of points they've ever let up this year is 28 points, with 2 shutouts coming in the playoffs, like Walker said. This team's closest game of the year was to Wellington, but their closest private school game of the year was Munster Sacred Heart. And, that game was about as close as it could be, a home game for Lubbock Christian that they almost lost to Ryan Straczynski. Now this is the second time really they're going to face like true talent. Now, Weatherford could have given them a game as well with Bax Townsend, but I think the closest game of the year would be Munster Sacred Heart. A 12-0 team, basically, that is en route to winning the state championship. Shiner has winning in their blood. And so for the last time this year in all of 2022, I have Lubbock Christian over Shiner St. Paul. We will see y'all in Waco. I am hyped. It's going to be a great, great, great state championships. Can everybody feel it right now? I mean, this place is going nuts right now. This place is going nuts in the Plex. Like people said, you got to pump it up. You got to pump it up.
Oh, dang it. I was literally loading my Spotify.
Oh my gosh. No, absolutely. Yeah, I cannot explain how much I have enjoyed this season, how much I have enjoyed making picks, going to games, meeting all of you, getting to just cover athletes. It has been such a fun time. I cannot explain how excited I am for the state championships. It's the most fun weekend of the year. Every year we will be in Waco. We will be covering all 4 of these games Friday and Saturday. Walker Lott, you have any closing thoughts for the last week of the season?
Texas high school football is something that's different than most things you can have as a high school kid. In other sports, right, basketball, volleyball, golf and all of that, you can go play. You won't play in high school. You can maybe go play in college, right? And you can go play it recreationally with your friends and stuff growing up and, as you grow up. After your 4 years of high school football, if you don't go play college, you're done. You don't put up the pads anymore. And there's something that's kind of special about that, especially in Texas. The one good thing I think about private school, right, is because they're so small, you can have the small town feel to a lot of games. have the whole community come around, and just build that community. And that's what makes it so special. And for a lot of these seniors, a lot of these teams, this is the biggest stage you'll ever get. This is the state championships. This is the biggest of the big of a sporting event that you can have your part in ever. That is what makes it so special. The community coming together, everyone driving down from Waco. I already saw Lubbock Christian has an 8 a.m. Send them off all the way to Waco when they go for the state championship. This is what makes it so much fun. And it comes down to this: 48 minutes to put everything you have on the line to win that trophy. That's all that matters for these guys. Do whatever you can to win that trophy. And I'm so excited we're going to be able to cover this. It is what all of us just loved, watching the emotion, the highs and lows of all you guys, putting in everything you have on the line to win. There's nothing better than that. There's, the support you have if you lose from your school and your community, and the success and the feeling of just, I don't even know. There's not a feeling. There's not a word to describe the feeling of winning a state championship. I haven't done it, and I wish I could feel what some of these guys are going to feel. Parish going for 4 straight. Can Shiner St. Paul win 5? Like, that's some of these storylines. The storylines going into these games are going to be so much fun to watch. Dallas Christian moving down. Are they going to continue the dominance? Fort Bend and All Saints, have a lot of talent, struggled and fought their way to the state championship, and who's going to come out on top? This is what we love. This is what high school football is all about. Private school football is so much fun to watch. We're excited to do this and ready for another good 48 minutes, 4 games. Excited for it, guys.
So many emotions, so much talent, so many storylines. Ryan Schroeder, what do you want to leave us with on the last preview?
I can't say anything to follow that up, y'all. I'm excited to see y'all. And yeah, let's get it, man. Let's do it. Let's have a really good state championship. And make sure to come say hi if you see us.
Yeah,
for sure. Like, I know a lot of y'all be playing, but parents, anybody else, people that, I literally know there's student section kids that watch this stuff too. Like, if you're in the student section for one of these schools and you want to talk to us and stuff like that, feel free to see us. We'll always come have a conversation with you. We love seeing y'all, and stay tuned for more about state championships this weekend. May have a live stream, may have other stuff going on. Definitely going to have some Twitter spaces going on as well. So just stay tuned for that information. It's going to be on our Twitter. And if you somehow don't know our Twitter yet, it's at TXPS Podcast. And the same is on Instagram. And our website is txpsmedia.com. Check all that out, and we'll see y'all in Waco.
Absolutely. I hope if any of you see us, just come up, have a conversation with us. It's some of the most fun part of what we do, is being able to connect with everyone that's part of this community. It is, without a doubt, just our favorite thing to do. But with that being said, for the final time, for an official episode this year, I have been one third of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. Walker Lott and Ryan Schroeder have fantastically been themselves. We will see you in Waco. See you this weekend.
3, 2, 1.